Hi, my name is Margarita, and today we'll be performing manual muscle test. Manual muscle test is used to determine the amount of power of the muscle, not its endurance. Some people might present with limited range of motion, but with normal muscle strength. Some of the reasons why people might lose muscle strength are neuropathy, neurological disease, prolonged immobilization, amputation, burns, arthritis, physical trauma, fractures, etc. For manual muscle test, we're gonna start with elbow flexion and extension. I already checked my client, and he has functional range of motion for all of the joints that we will be measuring today. But anyway, can you just touch your shoulder for me? So he does have full range of motion. Position for this measure is going to be in sitting. The arm will be adducted, elbow extended, and the forearm will be supinated. We are going to stabilize distal to the glenohumeral joint, and I am going to be palpating the primary muscle of this motion, which is the biceps, and I'm going to be very close with my eyes and my body to be able to feel this. So as I stabilize right here, I'm going to palpate, and I'm gonna ask him to bring his hand to his shoulder. And he was able to perform it, and I also palpated the motion of the joint. So at this point, I only know that he is 3 out of 5 because he has full range of motion, no resistance yet. Since I already know that my client is at 3 out of 5, which is also fair, I am going to add resistance to see if he can go to 3 plus, 4 minus, 4 plus, or 5 out of 5. And the way I do that is by adding resistance. I am going to apply the same technique of stabilizing and adding resistance. So I'm gonna ask him not to let me move his arm. So please bring your hand to your shoulder. That's a 3. And then I'm gonna apply a little bit of resistance. And then you're gonna let go. That's a 5. Right here, I'll fix it. Stabilization and mean resistance. That was 3 plus because it takes minimum resistance. And it is against gravity because it's perpendicular to the floor. I'm gonna add moderate resistance. 1, 2, and he let go. 4. Its full range of motion is against gravity, and he took moderate resistance. Go one more time. And now I'm gonna apply max resistance. So that's a 5 out of 5, or good, because he took full resistance, full range of motion against gravity. If my patient, after being stabilized, can go a little bit more, palm out, if you can go more than half, but not all the way to the shoulder, more than half. Okay, right there, you can rest. Fair minus, 3 minus, because he can go against gravity. He went more than half, but he couldn't go all the way. Now, if doing the same thing, palm out, he goes less than half against gravity, shoulder. Right there, you can rest it. 4 plus, which is the same thing as 2 plus. I have my client in supine so we can eliminate gravity, and we are going to also do flexion of the elbow, and for that I am going to have him externally rotate his shoulder, palm in supination, and his arm will be abducted. Abducted. I am going to be stabilizing distal to the glenohumeral joint. I will be pulping. And I'm gonna have him bring his palm to touch his shoulder. Go all the way. All the way. So that gives me full range of motion, and put that gives me full range of motion with gravity eliminated, and that gives me a 2. Okay, go all the way to your shoulders. And now I'm going to try, and you're gonna give up very soon after. So that gives me a 2 plus. It's against gravity, and he took a little bit of resistance, minimum resistance. For 2 minus, go less than halfway. Okay. So he has less than half full range of motion, therefore he is at 2 minus. Trace, I would have to palpate. He's trying to move the arm, but yeah, I feel the trace in the muscle, but in the bicep, but no movement. And if I don't feel anything, if this is completely weak, then it would be 0. For elbow extension, I am going to have my patient on prone position, and since we don't have a better way, we're just gonna pretend that this is a mat, and this is to test against gravity. And I'm gonna have him position his arm abducted at 90 degrees, elbow flexed at 90 degrees, and the forearm in neutral and perpendicular to the floor. I'm gonna stabilize from the humerus by placing my hand to support under his arm, and the muscle that I am looking for to palpate is the triceps. Okay, so abducted at 90. Okay, neutral. Stabilizing from the humerus, and I am going to be palpating for the triceps, and I'm going to have him bring his forearm to be straight with his humerus. So bring this arm up for me. And he gives me full range of motion, and I observed and palpated the tricep. That gives me 3 out of 5. With his arm straight, I'm gonna apply resistance to the distal part of the humerus, and you don't let me break, okay? So, okay, that's mean resist. That puts him at 3 plus out of 5 because he took mean resistance. If he goes again, and okay, that was 4. Taking my resistance. And this is 5. Flaccid 0 to 2 plus, we are going to eliminate gravity. To eliminate gravity, we always have to do it parallel to the floor. Therefore, my client is going to be on supine. I would be abducted to 90 degrees in external rotation. To stabilize the humerus, one hand for support under the arm. The muscle to be palpated would be the triceps. Distal will be applied to the distal part of the forearm. Shoulder abducted at 90. External rotation, supination. Stabilization, distal to the glenohumeral joint, and palpating the triceps. Can you please touch your shoulder? Okay, go back. Range of motion No gravity, therefore he gets a grade of 2. Poor or 2 because it's full range of motion, no resistance, gravity eliminated. Okay, so go and so less than half, less than half. Poor minus, less than 50% of full range of motion. Just a little. That's strays, and flaccid is 0. Supination, shoulder will be adducted, elbow will be flexed to 90 degrees, and the forearm will be pronated. Stabilizing will happen at the humerus proximal to the elbow, palpating the supinator in the dorsal aspect of the forearm or the bicep. Arm will be adducted, your shoulder will be at 90, and your forearm will be pronated. For the muscle that I will be palpating for this one, I could either do the supinator, which you can find on the forearm, but it's a little bit easier to feel for the biceps, therefore that's what I'm going to be using. I will stabilize from here, and I am going to ask him to move his palm from facing down to facing up. And that's full range of motion, that's at least 3. Now I'm going to apply some resistance in the middle of the forearm, distal to the elbow and proximal to the wrist. And I'm gonna ask him to move, and I'm gonna ask him to move, supinate, and okay, 3 plus, and then I think he can give me a little more. So go ahead. That's 5 out of 5. Position 2, gravity eliminated. For that, I'm gonna have him continue with his shoulder abducted. Abducted. Elbow will be flexed at 90. His hand is going to be pronated, and I am going to have him. Hold on, let me just fix it. Okay. So start here, and now come all the way, your palm facing me. Okay, so that's at least a 2 because gravity is eliminated. Now, I'm going to apply a little bit of resistance. Okay. And he took it. At 2 plus, go less than half. At 2 minus or poor minus. For arm pronation, it's going to be the same position as for supination. I'm gonna have the shoulder adducted and the elbow is gonna be flexed at 90, stabilizing the humerus proximal to the elbow, and I will palpate for the pronator teres, which is in the volar aspect of the forearm. So shoulder abducted, elbow flexed at 90 degrees, and I am going to have his face up, his palm facing up, which is supination, so I can bring him into pronation. I am going to be palpating for the pronator teres. Okay, he gave me full range of motion. That gives me at least a 3. Now I'm going to apply some resistance. Okay, so don't let me move your arm. Try to go into. That's actually already at 5 because that was max resistance. A little bit less, he would have break a little bit less, would have been a 4, but right now he's 5 out of 5. When you have 2 plus or less, it's going to be also seated, but then I'm going to bring his shoulder is going to be adducted at 90, and then I'm going to have his elbow flex, and I'm going to have him do the same thing. That way I can eliminate gravity. So shoulder adducted, elbow flexed at 90 degrees, and I'm going to have him in supination so I can go into pronation. I'm going to stabilize distal to the glenohumeral, and I am going to be feeling for for the pronator. Your palm down. That was full range of motion. So that is a 2. That is a 2. And I'm gonna see if I can add a little bit of resistance to give him 2+. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, he gave me the little bit of resistance. So he's right now at 2+. If he gives me less than half of pronation, less than half of pronation, okay, that's 2- or poor minus. Little jump, and if there's nothing, then it would be a 0. For elbow flexion, I'm gonna have the patient seated. I'm gonna have the shoulder in abduction. Shoulder will be abducted, elbow will be relaxed, and the forearm in pronation. So put it down, and then your hand, the palm of your hand will be facing down as well. And for this motion, I just need to have him go midway, so to 90 degrees, because I only want to use the deltoid muscle and not the whole conjunction of muscles that make the whole full range of motion of flexion. So I am going to stabilize and feel for the deltoid. I'm gonna feel for the deltoid, anterior deltoid actually. And I'm gonna have him just to your shoulder level. Then up to your shoulder level, definitely. So that's it, full range of motion, or not full range of motion, but to 90 degrees, which puts him at least at a 3. And now I'm going to add some resistance to see if he can give me a little bit more than that. Okay, that's 3+. Keep it. Definitely 4, a little bit more resistance. Definitely 5 out of 5. I'm gonna place him inside line for gravity elimination. Shoulder adductor, elbow relaxed, forearm in pronation. Anterior deltoid, and I'm gonna have him go, so you're gonna reach the same to match your other arm. Okay, so yes, definitely that's a 2, and I'm gonna see if he can give me a little bit more than 2. A little bit of, yes, a little bit of resistance, so he's definitely at 2+, gravity eliminated. Now, if he is here and he only reaches less than halfway to where you were just now, that's 2- or poor minus. And of course, 0 would be no firing of the muscle, and trace would be just the little fire. For shoulder extension, I am going to have the client on prone position, and I'm gonna also have his shoulder adducted, elbow relaxed, and the forearm in pronation. Palm down. Shoulder adducted, and pronation for the forearm. And I am going to palpate for the teres major, right? Okay, that was full range of motion, and I felt the muscle fire. So go back to that position. I'm gonna try to apply resistance, go all the way to 5. So I'm gonna put a lot of resistance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that is max resistance. Now put it back. Give me a little bit less. 1, 2. Okay. That's gonna put him at 4 because he was max resistance. At max resistance, he was 5 out of 5. And for full range of motion, he was at 3 and 3+ when he got a little bit of resistance. For shoulder extension, I'm going to have him lay down on the floor for sideline, so we can eliminate gravity, see if he can give me 2+ or 2, 1 or 0. I'm going to also look for the same muscle. I'm going to have him in the same position. For shoulder abduction, ABD abduction, I'm going to palpate for the mid deltoid. I'm going to stabilize from the shoulder. I'm going to have the shoulder is going to be adducted, the elbow is going to be relaxed, and the wrist is going to be in neutral. So I'm stabilizing from the shoulder, feeling for the deltoid. For this motion, we only go to 90. So you are going to bring your arm almost to your shoulder. Okay, perfect. I felt the muscle, and I'm going to, that's full range of motion. That puts him at 3. I'm going to apply some resistance proximal to the elbow, distal to the glenohumeral joint, to see if he can give me a little more than that. Okay, that's 3 plus, that's 4, and that's 5 out of 5. Okay, you're going to lay down on your back. So I need him in supine. It's going to be the same thing. I'm going to have him his shoulder abducted. Elbow is going to be relaxed, and the forearm or the wrist actually is going to be in neutral. Stabilizing from the shoulder, put your right here, and I'm going to feel for the mid deltoid, and I'm going to have him bring his hand to the level of his shoulder. Bring your arm, no, to the side like you're doing it at Angela. There you go. So that is full range of motion. That puts him at 2. So now I'm going to try to push you down, and you're not going to let me. Try your hardest not to let me. Okay, that's 2 plus. We did less than half, so to less than half of the motion right there. Then that would have been 2 minus or pour minus. And of course, trace would be a little twitch of the muscle, and 0 would be no trace. For shoulder external rotation, I am going to have my patient on prone position. I am going to have his shoulder adducted to 90 degrees. Prone position, shoulder adducted at 90 degrees. And his wrist is going to be in neutral. I'm helping support here because we don't have something long enough to hold on to his arm. So for external rotation, I am going to be looking for the teres minor muscle, which should be somewhere around here. I need to stabilize right above the shoulder, distal to the humerus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do both. And actually, I'm going to switch because I'm going to do external rotation. So I'm going to need you to go bring this hand almost to touch, not yet, I'll tell you when, almost to touch my hand. Okay, bring it up for me and stay there. And I did feel the muscle. I'm going to have you there, and I'm going to try to apply resistance. Right now you're at 3 because you have full range of motion. I'm going to try to apply resistance, so let me bring you down. That's 3 plus, that's 4, and he can take it, and that is 5. For gravity eliminated, I'm going to have my client seated. His elbow is going to be flexed at 90 degrees. I am also going to palpate for the teres major back here, and I'm going to stabilize distal to the humerus. And I am going to ask you to look at me. This is the motion that you're doing away from you. Okay, go ahead and do it. Okay, I just palpated the muscle. Now try to keep it there. Right now he's at 3 out of 5. I'm gonna apply some resistance. Okay, he can take it. He's 3 plus. He can still take it. He's at 4. And right now he is 5 out of 5. For shoulder external rotation, gravity eliminated is also going to be in seated. And it's going to be gravity eliminated for shoulder external rotation. I'm going to be looking for teres major, which is going to be somewhere around here. His shoulder will be abducted. His elbow will be at 90 degrees. And I will be stabilizing distal to the glenohumeral joint. And wrist will be in neutral. So I'll find my muscle. And I'm going to have you bring your arm all the way to touch your belly. Okay. So that is a 2 plus because it's full range of motion. Now I'm gonna see if he has if I can add a little bit of resistance, and that will put him at 2.5. Yes, he's 2.5, 2 plus. Now, if he can only do the motion only halfway in, then that would be 2 minus. Trace would be a little bit of firing of the muscle, and 0 would be no motion at all. To go against gravity, my patient has to be on prone position. Shoulder will be adducted at 90, and forearm, actually wrist, will be in neutral. And I'm also going to be looking for teres major. That will be the muscle that will be firing. And I'm going to have him, I'm going to stabilize from the distal part of the humerus. And can you please bring this part almost parallel to the trunk of your body? In a full range of motion, we put him at least 3. Now, hold it right there, right where you are, and I'm going to apply some resistance. Okay, that's 3 plus, so mid resistance, mild resistance, 4, and 5. 5 out of 5. MCP flexion, I'm going to have his hand, his shoulder is going to be adducted. The forearm will be resting on the table. In supination, wrist in neutral position, and the MCP and the rest of the fingers will be just relaxed. I'll stabilize proximal to the empty joint in the palm of the hand. So that's going to be right here. I'm kind of going to stabilize a little bit of the wrist. And I'm going to measure the second digit. I'm going to palpate for the first intraosseous muscle, which is medial. In the medial part, between the first and the second digit, I'm gonna keep my hand there. You're gonna keep these two straight, and you're going to try to just flex straight up. Okay, he gave me full range of motion. That's fine, go back up, keep it there. I'm gonna apply some resistance. Okay, so he was 3, now he's 3 plus, some resistance, 4, and max resistance, 5 out of 5. I just applied that resistance to the proximal phalange. If I'm going to eliminate gravity, the only difference is that the ulnar part of the forearm will be placed on the table. I will be also stabilizing the MCP and the palm and the wrist right above the MCP joint, and I am going to have him, I'm palpating here with this finger, I'm palpating for the muscle, and you're gonna do the same thing, hand forward and go forward. There you go, that's for range of motion. And then 3 plus, 4, 5 out of 5. For PIP, flexion, same thing. I'm going to have the patient in sitting, forearm resting on the table in supination. Wrist is gonna be neutral, and MP is extended. And for this one, I am going to stabilize kind of like with these 2 fingers and 1 in the bottom, just like that. And I am going to be palpating for the flexor digitorum superficialis, which is in the volar surface of the proximal phalange. And I'm gonna have you try to bring this left part of the finger up close to you, like facing you. Like bring it up. Okay, bend it. Okay, so that's full range of motion. And I'm gonna play a little bit of, so he's at 3 right there. Okay, so bring it up and leave it up. Just like that. And now I'm gonna apply resistance. Okay, so that's 3 plus, that's 4, and that is 5. For gravity eliminated, it's gonna be the same thing. Stabilization, and I'm just gonna do the whole range of motion, and that's it. And for DIP, flexion position is in sitting, forearm is resting on the table in supination, wrist is in neutral position. MP, extended, and IP is extended, and I will stabilize between the PIP and the DIP joints. I can even use 3 fingers if I want. And then I'm gonna be also palpating for the flexor digitorum profundus, and I am going to have my client bring this end of the finger bended towards you. Okay, so he gave me full range of motion. Leave it there, leave it there. Okay, that's 3 plus, that's 4, and that's 5. 5 out of 5.